Lena Morales knew it before she even stepped through the glass door of the diner. The place smelled like burnt coffee and bacon grease, the kind that soaked into clothes and followed you home. 3 stools at the counter were empty. A sign near the register read, "Now hiring. Weekend help." But when the manager saw her standing there with a folded resume in her hand, his expression tightened. "Yes?" he said, already glancing back toward the grill. "I saw your sign," Lena replied. Her voice stayed steady. "I can start today." He didn't reach for the paper. "We're good." Her jaw clenched slightly. "I've worked kitchens before. Ranch cooks too. I clean fast. Don't cause trouble." That made him finally look at her. Really look at her. His eyes flicked from the scar near her left eyebrow down to her boots dusted with road dirt. Then, quickly, toward the waitress pouring coffee. "We'll call you," he said. "I don't have great reception," Lena said quietly. "If you will call." It was always the same phrase. She nodded once, thanked him, and walked out before the heat in her chest could spill into something worse. Outside, the wind cut through her thin jacket. The winter sun sat low and pale over the highway, throwing long shadows across the cracked pavement. She checked her phone again, even though she already knew what it would say. Balance, $18.42. 6 months on the road. 3 towns. A string of short-term jobs that vanished the moment people started talking. She slung her bag higher on her shoulder and headed toward the edge of town where traffic thinned and the land opened into fields patched with frost. Pickup trucks roared past her, spraying grit. Somewhere a dog barked behind a chain-link fence. That was when she saw the sign. A warped wooden board leaned against a fence post, the letters barely holding together. Hiring. Ranch help needed. Lena slowed. Ranch work paid better than dishwashing. Usually came with a bunkhouse, or at least a place to pitch a trailer. But ranchers were cautious people. They liked history. Roots. She had neither. Still, the number in her bank account pulsed behind her eyes. She turned off the highway and followed the dirt road curling through open pasture. The land dipped and rose in slow waves, brown grass poking through snow crust. A line of cottonwoods guarded a creek bed, their branches rattling in the wind. The ranch spread out ahead. 2 long barns, a set of corrals, a farmhouse with a rusted tin roof, smoke drifting from a chimney. Work. Real work. She reached the gate just as a pickup truck bounced in from the far field, towing an empty stock trailer. The driver slowed, dust clouding around the tires, and parked near the fence. He climbed out slowly, like someone who didn't hurry unless a horse was dying. Tall, broad shoulders, weathered flannel, a cowboy hat that had seen too many summers to still be black. He studied her for a moment without speaking. "You lost?" he asked. "No, sir." Lena straightened. "I saw the sign. I'm looking for work." He glanced at her bag, then at the road she'd walked on. Ranch works hard. "I know. You ever done it?" "Yes." "Where?" "Wyoming. Northern New Mexico. 2 winters in Idaho." That made him pause. "Name?" "Lena Morales." "Carter Hale." He jerked his chin toward the barn. "Come on." Inside, the air was warmer, thick with hay dust and horse sweat. Sunlight slipped through slats in the walls, catching floating particles like sparks. A chestnut mare stamped in her stall and blew out a breath. Carter leaned against the fence rail, folding his arms. "So," he said, "what brings you to a town this small?" Lena had learned to answer that question carefully, looking for steady work. "That's not what I asked." Her fingers curled around the strap of her bag. "I move around." "Why?" She met his eyes. They were lighter than she expected. Gray, sharp but not unkind. Life happened. Most people pushed after that. He didn't. Instead, he watched her for a long second longer, then said, "You got references?" "Some. From places that no longer wanted to get involved. From bosses who'd liked her until neighbors hadn't." "Yes." "You mind if I call?" "No." Another pause. Then he asked something different. "Are you running from something?" Carter said evenly, "or toward it?" Lena blinked. No one ever asked that. Her mouth opened, closed again. She swallowed. "Toward," she said. The word surprised even her. Carter nodded slowly. All right. He straightened. Then here's what I need to know. He pointed toward the far pasture where a stretch of fencing sagged under snow. Can you mend wire in frozen ground, haul feed in the dark, and still show up at 5 tomorrow morning? Yes. Can you handle a horse that bites and a cow that weighs 1,200 pounds? Yes. He watched her another second. And if this town starts talking, he added quietly, are you going to disappear in the middle of the night? Lena's chest tightened. No. Carter studied her face, as if measuring truth the way ranchers measured weather. Finally, he nodded. Good. He stuck out his hand. I'll give you a week. Lena slept in her truck that first night. It wasn't because Carter told her to. He'd offered the bunkhouse without hesitation. But she'd learned not to unpack too fast. Not until she knew whether a place would really keep her. The truck was old, paint faded to chalk, but it ran. Barely. She parked it near the edge of the pasture, where the cottonwoods blocked some of the wind, and ate a protein bar for dinner, while watching the lights glow in the farmhouse windows. Somewhere a coyote yipped. She wrapped herself in a blanket and stared at the roof liner, listening to the ranch settle. Metal ticking as it cooled, horses shifting in their stalls, the creek whispering beyond the trees. At 5 sharp, a knock at her window. Carter stood outside with a thermos in one hand. You alive in there? She rolled upright and cracked the door. Morning. He handed her the thermos. Coffee. Strong. Bitter. Perfect. You didn't have to sleep in your truck, he said. I know. He nodded like he understood. Meet me at the main barn in 10. By sunrise, she was already sweating. The wind had teeth, but work warmed you fast. Carter tossed her a pair of wire cutters and pointed at a stretch of fence half crushed under last week's snow. Post shifted. Out got through. We fix it before the herd wanders. The ground was iron hard. Each strike of the post driver rang up her arms. Carter watched for a minute, then silently took one side, while she worked the other. No commentary. That alone put him miles above most bosses. By mid-morning her gloves were torn and her shoulders burned. She didn't slow. At noon, they ate sandwiches on the tailgate of the truck. He talked about the winter being mild so far, about hay prices climbing, about a neighbor losing 3 calves to coyotes. Normal things. He didn't ask about her past, which somehow made it harder not to think about. After lunch, he sent her to muck stalls while he rode fence line. The chestnut mare tried to pin her ears and nip when she passed. Lena clicked her tongue, sharp and low. The horse hesitated. She slid past, calm, shovel moving steady. By the time Carter returned, sweat had darkened the back of her shirt, and the aisles smelled cleaner. You handle horses, he said. Yes. He didn't smile, but his eyes warmed a notch. The first whisper came that afternoon. She drove into town for supplies, gloves, dog food for a ranch mutt that limped around the barn, and a coil of wire Carter needed. At the feed store counter, the clerk, a teenager with acne and a slow drawl, scanned her items and frowned at the screen. You knew. Passing through. He shrugged, but the man behind her leaned closer. That hell hire you? Yes. The man's mouth twitched. Brave of him. She turned. Why? He hesitated, then glanced toward the window. People around here don't like surprises. She waited. He didn't add anything. Neither did she. When she left, 2 women near the seed shelves went quiet. That night, she took the bunkhouse. It was clean, simple, 2 beds, a table, a propane heater ticking softly. She chose the bed near the window and laid her bag on it, still not unpacking fully. Truss came slow. Around 9, headlights swept past the building. A truck slowed, didn't stop, kept going. She lay awake longer than she wanted to. The second whisper came with a name. 3 days in, she'd fallen into rhythm. Mornings feeding, afternoons fixing fence or hauling hay, evenings brushing horses until their coats shone under dust. Carter paid her in cash at the end of the week. You earned it, he said. She stared at the bills for half a second too long. Thank you. He paused. Town treat you all right? She met his eyes. Yes. That was technically true. No one had done anything. Yet, Later that evening, she went into town for groceries. At the register, the cashier, a middle-aged woman with perfect hair, smiled too brightly. "You working for Hale?" "Yes, ma'am." The smile slipped just a little. "Huh? What?" She leaned closer, voice dropping. "Name Morales. That wouldn't be the Morales from Red Creek, would it?" Lena's fingers tightened on the cart handle. "I don't know." The woman studied her face. "Thought you might be." Lena paid and left. Her chest didn't ease until she crossed the highway again. Red Creek. So the rumors had arrived. They always did. That night she sat on the bunkhouse steps, watching stars sharpen in the cold sky. Carter walked over, hands in his jacket pockets. "Someone bother you?" She hesitated. "People talk." "They always do." She glanced at him. "You hear anything?" He considered that. "Enough." Her stomach tightened. And I didn't hire a story," he said. "I hired a worker." Silence stretched. Then he added quieter. "But if there's something I should know, I'd rather hear it from you than town gossip." Lena stared out at the pasture, where moonlight silvered the grass. For a long time, she didn't answer. Finally, she said, "I didn't hurt anyone." Carter nodded once. "That's a start." Lena was moving a pair of yearlings from the west pasture into the lower corral. Slow work, the kind that depended on patience more than muscle. Carter rode fence line farther up the ridge, checking for breaks after a night of heavy wind. The cattle were skittish. Weather did that. So did unfamiliar hands. She kept her voice low, clicking gently, stepping wide to guide them through the open gate. One calf bolted sideways, spooking the other. Hooves tore up frozen dirt. "Easy," she murmured. The second animal lurched toward the half-repaired fence. Wire snapped. The post leaned. Lena swore and sprinted, grabbing the rail just as the calf shoved through the gap. It burst free into the open field, bawling. Great. She climbed through after it, boots sliding in frost-crusted mud. The calf veered downhill toward the creek bed. Lena angled to cut it off. Then her foot caught. She went down hard. The air punched from her lungs as she skidded, gloves scraping dirt. She rolled once, came up on a knee, and pushed the sting in her ribs. The calf didn't slow. She ran again. By the time she caught the animal at the creek bank and turned it back toward the pasture, sweat soaked her collar and her side throbbed with every breath. Carter rode in 10 minutes later, horse blowing steam. "What happened?" "Fence gave," she said. "I'll fix it." He eyed her posture. "You limping?" "I'm fine." He didn't argue, but he rode with her back to the corral instead of leaving her alone. An hour later, the sound of another engine drifted up the road. Not a pickup, a cruiser. Lena was stacking feed sacks when she saw it through the barn doors. Black and white paint, light bar dark. Her stomach dropped. Carter noticed the same second she did. He handed the last sack to the ranch hand working nearby, an older man named Pete, and walked out the gate. Lena froze. She told herself not to. She kept stacking. But every sound sharpened. The crunch of gravel, a door opening, boots. She wiped her hands on her jeans and stepped closer to the doorway, pretending to straighten a rake. The deputy was young, maybe early 30s. Tan uniform, hand resting near his belt. Not on the gun, but close enough. Carter leaned on the fence rail. "Afternoon, deputy." "Mr. Hale." The man tipped his hat. "Got a minute?" "Sure do." "What's this about?" The deputy glanced past him toward the barns. "Heard you hired a new hand." Carter didn't turn around. Word travels fast. Small town. What about her? The deputy shifted his weight. "We got a call." Lena's pulse thudded in her ears. Carter's voice stayed even. "From who?" "Anonymous." "About?" "Woman matching her description. Name Morales." Carter's jaw tightened just a fraction. Caller claimed she skipped out on a job up north. Left behind some trouble. "What kind of trouble?" Carter asked. The deputy hesitated. "Didn't say. Just thought we should look into it." Silence stretched. Lena took one slow breath. Carter finally glanced back at her, not accusing, assessing. Then he looked at the deputy again. "You have a warrant?" "No, sir." Complaint filed? No. Then what exactly are you looking into? The deputy cleared his throat, just asking questions. Carter straightened. SOMI. You planning on talking to my employee? I thought I might. You can, Carter said calmly, if you got something official. The deputy frowned. She's new here. So folks get nervous. Folks always do, Carter replied. The deputy's gaze flicked toward Lena again. You mind if I run her name? Carter's voice cooled. I mind if you start fishing without cause. The air shifted. Not hostile. Protective. The deputy studied him for a second, then exhaled. All right. If anything comes up, you'll bring paperwork. Yes, sir. The cruiser rolled away a moment later, dust drifting behind it. Lena realized her hands were shaking. She forced them still. Carter walked back toward the barn. Pete muttered, "Town wasting time again," and shuffled off with a bucket. Carter stopped in front of Lena. You okay? Yes. He waited. She didn't elaborate. After a beat, he said, You hurt? She hesitated. Ribs, maybe. Sit. I can work. Sit. She sat on a feed sack. He crouched, eyes scanning her side. Breathe in. She did. Sharp pain flared. He frowned. Bruised. Maybe cracked. I've had worse. I bet. He stood. You're off fence duty for the afternoon. I don't want special treatment. This isn't special. It's practical. She nodded. Then she said quietly, You didn't have to do that. He looked at her. Do what? With the deputy. Carter shrugged. He didn't have anything. You still could have let him talk to me. I could have. Why didn't you? He studied her for a long moment. Because I don't like people being cornered. Her throat tightened. He added, and because if someone's got a problem with you, they can bring it straight instead of stirring air. Lena looked down at her hands. I told you I didn't hurt anyone. I remember. She swallowed. There was a fire. Carter stilled. She hadn't planned to say it. It wasn't my fault, she added quickly. But I was there. The words hung between them. Carter didn't interrupt. People got hurt? Not like that. She shook her head. Property. A barn. Horses. Her voice roughened. They lived. He nodded slowly. And the law cleared me. Then that's what matters. She blinked. That's it. 2 days after the deputy's visit, someone left the ranch gate unlatched overnight. Carter found 3 cows wandering along the county road at dawn. The next morning, a coil of new fencing wire disappeared from the equipment shed. Pete swore he'd locked it. Carter didn't say much, but he started checking doors himself. Lena noticed. So did the dog. The old mutt began sleeping closer to the bunkhouse instead of under the barn awning. Lena didn't ask why. She already knew. The first real confrontation came at the gas station. She was filling her truck when a lifted pickup rolled in beside her, exhaust coughing black smoke. 2 men climbed out, locals by the look of them, Carhartt jackets, mud on their boots. One didn't bother lowering his voice. Thought she'd moved on. Lena kept pumping. The other chuckled. Guess Hale likes charity cases. She capped the nozzle and turned. Problem? The taller man's eyes slid to her ribs, still taped under her shirt. Heard you got run out of Red Creek. I left. After a barn burned down. Her jaw tightened. Wasn't mine. He stepped closer. Funny how your name sticks to smoke. Before she could answer, another voice cut in. That enough. Carter's truck sat at the other pump. She hadn't heard him pull in. He climbed out slowly, shutting the door with deliberate care. You boys done buying fuel? The tall one scoffed. Just talking. Not the way I see it. You her keeper now? Carter's eyes didn't leave him. I'm her boss. Silence stretched. The shorter man shifted first. Didn't mean anything. Good, Carter said. Then you won't mind leaving. They stared a second longer, then got back in their truck and peeled out. Lena exhaled. Carter looked at her. You all right? Yes. Good. He didn't ask what they'd said. He didn't need to. That night, she finally told him. Not everything. Just enough. They sat on the bunkhouse steps with coffee steaming between their hands, stars bright and hard in the cold. It was in Red Creek, she said. Dairy operation. Big place. Carter waited. I was night shift. Power flickered. Generator kicked on. She swallowed. Smelled smoke 20 minutes later. Electrical? That's what the inspector said. Faulty wiring in the loft. But I was the only one on site. Carter nodded. They lost hay, part of the roof. 3 horses nearly didn't make it. Did you get them out? Yes. Her voice cracked despite herself. I burned my hands on a stall latch. He noticed a faint scar she usually hid with gloves. They cleared me, she repeated. Insurance. Fire marshal. Sheriff. Town didn't. No. Carter leaned back against the railing. Small places like someone to blame. I left because people stopped hiring me, she said. And then they started following. Following how? Driving past wherever I was staying. Notes on my windshield. Nothing direct enough for police. Carter's jaw tightened. You should have reported it. I tried. And... She shrugged. He went quiet. Too quiet. The fire happened 3 nights later. Not the barn. The haystack. Lena woke to shouting. The dog barking like it had lost its mind. Orange light flickered across the bunkhouse wall. She was on her feet before the second shout reached her. Smoke hit her throat as she burst outside. The stacked bales near the south pasture were burning. Flames climbing fast, wind feeding them. Carter was already there with a hose. Pete beside him dragging another line. Grab buckets. Carter yelled. She ran. Heat scorched her face as they worked, water hissing uselessly against packed hay. Sparks lifted into the air like fireflies. This wasn't electrical. This was open flame. They managed to keep it from spreading to the fence line, but half the stack was gone by the time the volunteer engine arrived. Neighbors lined the road, watching, whispering. Smoke drifted between them, stinging Lena's eyes. Her clothes smelled like burned grass and wet ash. Firefighters stomped glowing embers behind him while neighbors lingered along the fence line, pretending not to stare. You mind answering a few questions? He asked. Carter stepped in beside her. Asked them here. The deputy hesitated, then nodded. Where were you when the fire started? In the bunkhouse, Lena said. Asleep? Anyone with you? No. What time do you notice it? When the dog started barking. The deputy scribbled. Anybody see you leave the building? No. The pen paused. You've had trouble like this before? Lena swallowed. Carter's voice cut in. She already told me about Red Creek. The deputy looked up. And she was cleared. That was another county. And this is mine, Carter said. What's your point? The deputy held his gaze for a second, then turned back to Lena. You touched the haystacks at all yesterday? I fed from the north pile. Not that one. Smoke? Electrical issues? It's hay, she said flatly. It doesn't wire itself. A few murmurs rippled from the onlookers. The deputy raised a hand for quiet. I'll need to take a look at the bunkhouse. Fine, Carter said. And her truck. Carter stiffened. Lena nodded before he could answer. I've got nothing to hide. They searched. 10 minutes in the bunkhouse. 30 in her truck. A flashlight through every corner of the hay yard. Nothing. No fuel cans. No matches. No accelerant. The fire chief joined them, helmet tucked under his arm. Burn pattern started low, he told the deputy. Wind facing side. Smells like lighter fluid or diesel. The deputy frowned. Find any? Not yet. Lena's stomach twisted. The chief added, but it wasn't electrical. Carter's eyes darkened. The deputy looked at Lena again. We'll be in touch. She knew what that meant. The witness came from the dark. Pete, the old ranch hand shuffled forward, hat in his hands. Deputy? The man turned. I saw something. Every head snapped toward him. Lena's chest tightened. What did you see, Pete? Carter asked. Pete cleared his throat. Was letting the dog out near midnight. Heard a truck. Whose? Didn't sound like Hale's. Louder. Lifted maybe. Lena's eyes flicked to the road. See anyone? Couldn't from the porch. But headlights swept the south pasture. The deputy straightened. Which direction? Toward the county road. Time. Maybe 10 minutes before I smelled smoke. Murmurs surged. The deputy scribbled fast. You recognize the vehicle? Pete shook his head. Just know it wasn't ours. Carter exhaled slowly. The deputy nodded. All right, that helps. He looked at Lena again, different this time. Not accusing. Thinking. The next morning, Carter called her into the tack room. Sunlight cut through dust as he shut the door behind them. Deputy came by early, he said. Her stomach dipped. Off the record. She waited. He checked tire tracks near the hay yard. Deep treads. Wide stance. Lifted truck. Yes, that's not mine. I know. She stared at him. You don't even know what I drive. He gave a thin smile. I do now. Relief hit her harder than she expected. They got anything else? Paint flakes on a fence post. Blue. Her pulse jumped. The men at the gas station. Carter continued. Deputies talking to folks in town. Will they believe Pete? They'll believe evidence. She nodded, then said quietly, people still think it was me. Some, he admitted. She swallowed. And you? Carter didn't hesitate. I think someone wanted me to fire you. Her eyes snapped up. They burned your hay to get rid of me? He met her stare. Looks that way. That afternoon, she found something. She was repairing the south fence when she saw it half buried in dirt near the post the chief had pointed out. A crushed plastic bottle. Cap melted. Smelled faintly of fuel. She didn't touch it. She flagged Carter instead. He crouched beside it. That's accelerant. Should I call the deputy? I already am. An hour later, the cruiser came back. The deputy photographed the bottle. Bagged it. Good catch, he said to Lena. Someone wanted that overlooked. Carter crossed his arms. You got suspects? The deputy glanced down the road. Working on it. Then he added lower, truck description lines up with a couple locals. The deputy didn't come back that night, which was worse than if he had. By morning, half the town knew about the hay fire. Social media posts. Coffee shop speculation. Sideways looks when Lena drove past a diner. Carter didn't send her into town again. Stay on the north pasture today, he said. Fence line by the creek. She understood what he wasn't saying. Let me deal with this. By noon, a second cruiser pulled into the yard. This one followed by a blue lifted pickup with mud-caked tires and chrome rails in the bed. Lena watched from behind a stack of lumber as the vehicle stopped near the main barn. Her stomach dropped. Blue. The gas station truck. Two men climbed out. Same jackets. Same boots. Not smiling this time. Carter met them halfway, arms loose at his sides. The deputy spoke first. Morning, gentlemen. One of the men, tall, red-faced, snorted. Guess someone didn't like our late-night drive. You were near Hale Ranch around midnight 3 nights ago, the deputy said. The shorter man shifted. We drive lots of places. Funny coincidence, the deputy replied, given tire tracks matching your truck and blue paint on a fence post. Carter didn't speak. He didn't have to. The taller man's eyes flicked toward the barns. You accusing us of something? I'm investigating an arson, the deputy said evenly. Silence pressed in. Then the shorter one muttered, This about the drifter? Carter stepped forward. Careful. The man scoffed. She burned your hay, Hale. You know it. Lena's fists clenched. The deputy cut in. We found accelerant near the ignition point. So we also found a melted bottle buried nearby. The tall man's jaw tightened. The deputy continued. Same brand sold at the Quick Mart in town. Clerk remembers 2 men buying it late. Carter's eyes sharpened. Blue truck. Yes. The shorter man swore under his breath. That did it. The deputy straightened. Step back toward your vehicle, please. Come on. Now. They did. Grudgingly. One deputy moved to inspect the truck bed. What's your reason for driving past Hale's at midnight? The first deputy asked. The tall man glared at Carter. You been poaching our land with her? Carter didn't blink. I haven't. You hiring trouble, the man snapped. Then you decided to solve that with fire? The deputy asked. The shorter man shook his head. We didn't mean for it to get that big. Lena's breath caught. Carter's shoulders went still. The deputy looked at him sharply. You want to repeat that? The man froze. Aye. The tall one cursed. The deputy stepped closer. So you were there. Silence. Long. Heavy. Finally, the tall man said, We just wanted to scare you, make you let her go. Carter's voice dropped to ice. You burned my feed. Didn't spread like we thought. The deputy exhaled through his nose. Turn around. Hands where I can see them. Cuffs clicked. Neighbors watched from the road again. But this time, they weren't whispering the same way. That evening, the ranch was quiet in the exhausted way after a storm. Carter sat on the tailgate of his truck, staring at the blackened patch in the pasture. Lena stood nearby, unsure where to put herself. You okay? He asked. Yes. Then after a second, thank you. He nodded once. They admitted what they did. Why? They heard the Red Creek story, he said. Figured if they pushed, I'd cut you loose. She swallowed. And you didn't. He looked at her. Didn't cross my mind. Her chest tightened. He went on. Town will cool off. Folks don't like arson. She managed a small breath of a laugh. Funny where the line is. Carter studied the scorched ground. You still planning on leaving? She hesitated. I don't know. That's fair. He slid off the tailgate, then asked the same way he had on day one. Quiet, straightforward. What are you running toward now? Lena looked across the pasture, at fences she'd fixed, horses she'd brushed, a place that finally felt less temporary.